Paris to London then to get onto the station. Thanks for the invitation. I am Niccolo Milanese from European Alternatives, and not only in the interest of self-production, self-promotion, I want to tell you two things about European Alternatives, because actually it's important to our approach to this. European Alternatives is an activist organisation that started out very modestly amongst a couple of friends, deciding to try and change people's idea of what Europe could be. The way we tried to do that was to run festivals, inviting artists, philosophers, all the people who might not normally talk about Europe, or one might not hear so much from about Europe, to a festival of Europe to present a set of European alternatives. We started doing that, believe it or not, here in London 5 years ago. Now, the festival happens every year in 15 cities simultaneously across Europe. It's organised by several thousand citizens, working voluntarily mostly, to put together a festival of European alternatives, arts, culture and politics. And our line, what we're promoting is democracy, equality and culture beyond the nation state. It's a small initiative with not all that much funding. You've probably never heard of it. My point is that it's an important example of citizens trying to mobilise together to change the possibilities of what Europe could be. Very soon after we ran the first festival in 2007, various people came to us saying, you guys seem to be active about European affairs, you ought to do something about a whole series of issues, including migrant rights, the rights of the Roma, environment and so on and so forth. One of those key issues was about media pluralism and media freedom. And back in 2008, 2008-2009, there were various scandals, continuing scandals, about Berlusconi's ownership of media in Italy. Media concentration, happened to be Prime Minister, also own up to 80% of the media, also the advertising market, and was also accused of various forms of harassment of journalists, threatening to take them to court at some point. And so we, rather humbly as citizens, decided that we thought that Europe and the European institutions should do something about this. We went to the European Parliament. We said, well, we're coming to you as citizens. We think you ought to do something about it. And we worked with various parliamentarians to put together a resolution, which was voted on. Not the first resolution on the subject to be voted on in the European Parliament in 2009, calling for the European Council to impose sanctions against Italy unless this media concentration issue was sorted out. That vote was tied, actually, which means it didn't pass, because one side of the Parliament, which happens to be the political family of Berlusconi's political party, voted against it. Since that time, the media pluralism and freedom issue has somehow exploded on the European scene. As you're all aware, here today we've got Leveson report is going to be published, but in Hungary, as you no doubt have heard, there have been concerns about the governing majority imposing its will on the media by reconfiguring the way the governing bodies work of media regulation. In Bulgaria and Romania there are issues about corruption and politicians owning various kinds of media outlets. In other parts of Europe there are ongoing issues about politicians intimidating journalists and in general ways impinging on the rights to free speech as well as media pluralism. So this issue has exploded, and along with it we've become active on a whole series of these different cases throughout Europe, in different European countries, and the interest, it must be said, in the European institutions in this topic has grown. We became aware that since the Lisbon Treaty came into force, these things called European Citizens' Initiatives are available to be run. They concretely became available to be run earlier on this year, on April the 1st. An amusing day to make it formally possible to run European Citizens' Initiatives, but nonetheless the PR people of the Commission are always great for such things. It formally became possible on the 1st of April, and we sat down and thought to ourselves, listen, do we want to use this initiative or not? We were aware of many kinds of criticisms that could be made of it. people said to us, you know, it's a bit like writing a letter to the monarch, asking, you know, with a set of complaints, and what are they going to do? What are they going to do about it anyway? Other people said, you know, it's unlikely it's going to be very easy to do. Getting 1 million signatures sounds pretty tricky. Many different European countries and so on and so forth. We decided that, and I'll come to some more serious concerns afterwards, but broadly we decided that, and it's the attitude of our organisation, that the tool is there to be used, and we've got to use it and try and make it work as part of a much wider series of other kinds of initiatives. We're not only relying on the ECI to change people's minds about media pluralism, we're also running a broader campaign, continuing to work through the Parliament, as we already were, continuing to bring up the issue at different levels of government through our festivals, through our activism on a day-to-day basis. But we decided that the ECI is there, it's something that we at least support the idea of. We should try and use it and try and make it work. As we've already heard, there are all kinds of criticisms that you could make about the current ECI. Some of the ones that have been brought up I agree with, some of them actually I think are slightly misplaced now. Notably the issue about the servers and the centralised online collection system, because the Commission has recognised that it was, in fact they provided a free open source software to collect the signatures, which nobody was able to make work. And also there was this issue about the servers, they have to be secure servers and so on. They've recognised that that doesn't work that's not working, so they're now providing an online collection service, and they're providing these servers. They're not providing them very quickly, which is the reason why we can't collect online yet. So I'm going to pass around a piece of paper shortly. Not very digital, but you can sign up anyway. But they are doing it, and I think so that is misplaced. Also, I want to make the point that it's easy to criticise the Commission. I spend a certain amount of my time doing that when I'm in Brussels, but it would be much more justified in many cases to criticise the nation states. One of the big problems we've got collecting signatures is that every country is going to verify the signatures independently from one another. It's going to be the responsibility of the nation state to check whether the signature of the citizen is a valid signature or not. So obviously they need to check whether it's really a person who's done it, or it's the same person who's signed 1 million times. Because they couldn't agree on a common set of criteria to validate that, we've got 27 different ways of collecting the signatures now. So on the form I'm going to pass around to you, which looks complicated, but this is the UK one, this is actually the easiest. Well done, UK government. Not very supportive in other respects, but as far as this is concerned, they only require name, residence, date of birth, nationality, date and signature. No need for a signature if you sign it online. In Portugal, we need all of that information, city of birth, passport number, and some kind of electoral code number, which nobody knows, so you need to go and look for it. So I don't know, we haven't worked out how it's going. And in other countries it's different. That's because they couldn't agree on one single way of doing it. Also, there's various criticisms of the delays that the Commission are taking in responding to things. If you go and visit the Commission office which is dealing with this, this massive, massive initiative to have 1 million signatures amongst 500 million residents, there's 2.5 people working in it. Not surprising that they take an enormous amount of time, and that's largely to do, I would argue, with the extremely minimal amount of European budget that can be given to promoting citizenship and democracy in Europe. We could blame the Commission for not persuading the nation states to allocate more, but I mean ultimately we need to make the point that if already the European budget is 1% of European GDP, if the nation states are serious about having, or want to criticise Europe for not being democratic, they need to allocate some budget to make it possible, particularly when there's these kinds of things that are happening. Where I think the Commission could more legitimately be criticised is if only it were as simple as 7 citizens from throughout Europe coming together with an idea and proposing it as an initiative on an online site. If only it were that simple, because you have to prove that your proposal is within the competencies of the European Union. That means either you say something which is which is totally uncontroversial, like we need to have a single collection system for the ECI. I don't think they'd have many problems. Or you probably need to have a legal team which is going to help you seriously prove which articles under the treaties establish the right of the European Commission to take a legislative initiative in that particular area. Now, the interesting thing with our initiative is the previous times when we've been in Parliament and had votes on this, in the European Parliament, the Commission has always come and said, no matter what the response of what the outcome of the vote, that issues to do with media freedom and pluralism are not within its competencies. So one of the big objections that came to us was, you guys are planning on running an ECI on an area where the Commission has explicitly said it's not within its competencies. How are you going to do that? We had a legal team that worked on it. We came up with a text which is based on the Single Market Directive and concentration of ownership, and trying to insert various clauses about public interest into that, based on various articles in the treaty and in the Charter of Fundamental Rights. And for the first time, a month ago, the Commission acknowledged, because they registered our ECI, that it does potentially have competencies in that area. That already is a big victory, which has started to be used in the Parliament, in the committees. There are parliamentarians now saying, we've been calling for years for the Commission to take action about concentration of media ownership. They've just recognised the ECI, which shows that they were wrong when they said they don't have competences about that. So even though we haven't even started to be able to collect the million signatures yet, we've already started to achieve something at least. And that tries to back up the broader point I was making, that we need to use this as one tool amongst others and try and use it in the best ways that we can to get the victories that we want. The last thing I will say is about that, and then I'm going to hand the forms around. Many of the ECIs are experiencing some significant problems in collecting signatures for a whole set of technical reasons, which I don't think are very surprising given the scale and ambition of the initiative. But we think that their efforts need to be put into a broader context and a broader initiative for what we're calling democracy in Europe, actually. And so what we're doing is federating together people who are running citizens' initiatives, and also other NGOs, trade unions, citizens' movements, social movements, into a broader movement for refounding democracy or establishing democracy at a European level, which we're going to carry out throughout 2013. We're calling it the Citizens' Pact. I've got some leaflets about that. It's going to be launched in Brussels on the 17th of December. If we were to have a dream, the dream would be that there's 14 citizens' initiatives out there. They've got a year to collect 1 million signatures. In 1 year, if they were all to collect 1 million signatures, we could have 14 million citizens who are not only calling for their individual issues they've signed up to, but a broader call for citizen involvement in democracy and a genuine democracy in Europe. And so that's what we're trying to put together as a combat. I'm going to hand these forms around. You can sign. I'd be delighted if you do. The other thing perhaps you could do is to write your email address on the back of one of these pieces of paper, so that if you don't want to sign now, or if there's any problems with the way that you fill this in, because it has to be very exact, we can contact you and tell you when you can sign up online and so on. Thanks very much.